In the business world, paranoia is considered a weakness. It's seen as a lack of confidence, a failure of leadership. But for one man, paranoia wasn't a symptom of mental illness. It was a strategy for survival. Born Andras Graf, he spent his childhood hiding in cellars. First from the Nazis, who would have killed him for being Jewish. Then from the Soviets, who seized his country. He learned early that the world is not safe. He learned that comfort is a prelude to disaster. And he learned that if you aren't constantly looking over your shoulder, you are already dead. Decades later, that boy, now known as Andy Grove, would become the CEO of Intel. And he would take that trauma and turn it into the most aggressive management philosophy in history. He famously said, "Success breeds complacency. Complacency breeds failure. Only the paranoid survive," but this isn't just a catchy quote. It is the specific mathematical formula Intel used to navigate two near-death experiences. Two moments where the company should have gone bankrupt, but instead pivoted to become the most valuable manufacturing company on Earth. Today, we are unlocking the strategic inflection point, the moment where the rules of your business change tenfold, and how you can survive it. To understand the genius of Andy Grove, you have to understand where Intel started. In the 1970s, Intel was not a computer processor company. They were a memory company. They invented the dynamic RAM DRAM chip. They owned 100 of the market. It was a gold mine. But by the mid-1980s, Intel was bleeding to death. They were losing money for 18 consecutive months. Their stock had collapsed. They were under siege by a 10x force, competitors from Japan who could build better chips faster and sell them cheaper than Intel could even manufacture them. In 1985, Andy Grove sat down with Intel's co-founder, Gordon Moore. They were staring into the abyss of bankruptcy. And in that room, Grove asked a strange, hypothetical question, a question that is now taught in every business school in the world. And that is the mystery we are solving today. How did a company that was $475 million in the hole, a company whose primary product had just become worthless, manage to fire its entire management team without actually firing anyone and reinvent itself into the microprocessing giant we know today? The answer lies in a concept Grove called the Valley of Death, and most companies never make it to the other side. This is strategy unlocked. Let's break it down. The core of Grove's strategy is the strategic inflection point. Grove defined this as a time in the life of a business when its fundamentals are about to change. But not just change by an order of magnitude. He called this a 10x force. In Porter's 5 forces model, we're taught to look at competition, suppliers, and customers. But Grove argued that occasionally, one of these forces becomes 10 times stronger than it was yesterday. Maybe a competitor gets 10x cheaper. Maybe a technology becomes 10x faster. Maybe a supplier becomes 10x more powerful. When a 10x force hits, your previous strategy isn't just less effective, it is actively killing you. The problem: you can't see the inflection point when you're in it. The data is fuzzy. Is this a bad quarter? Or is the business dying? Grove said that by the time the CEO notices the 10x force, it's usually too late. The only people who know the truth are the Cassandras. The Cassandras are the middle managers, the sales reps, the engineers on the ground. They are the ones whose phone calls aren't getting returned. They are the ones seeing the competitor's product win. Grove's paranoia was a system to force the CEO to listen to the Cassandras before the ship sank. Let's look at Intel's first brush with death. The memory crisis. By 1985, Japanese manufacturers like Toshiba and NEC were dumping memory chips into the US market. They were selling chips at prices lower than the cost of the materials. Intel's Cassandras in the sales department were screaming. They told Grove, "We are losing every bid. The quality of the Japanese chips is actually better than ours, but Intel's leadership was in denial. They kept thinking, if we just build a bigger factory, if we just improve yields, we can win. They were emotionally attached to memory chips. It was their identity. This brings us to the revolving door moment. Grove looked out the window at the Ferris wheel of an amusement park down the street. He turned to Gordon Moore and asked, "Gordon, if we got kicked out and the board brought in a new CEO, what do you think he would do?" Gordon Moore didn't hesitate. He said, "He would get us out of memories." Grove stared at him numb. Then he said, "Why shouldn't you and I walk out the door, come back, and do it ourselves? This is the brilliance of constructive paranoia." Grove realized that their emotional attachment to the past was the only thing stopping them from saving the company. They had to fire their internal selves. The next day, they announced Intel was exiting the memory business, the business they invented. They fired 7,200 people. They closed plants. It was brutal. It was painful. They bet the entire company on a tiny, unproven product line called the microprocessor. If they had waited just one more year to make that decision, Intel would have run out of cash. The paranoia saved them. Intel survived the 80s. They pivoted to microprocessors. By 1994, they were the kings of the PC world. The Intel Inside campaign was a massive success. But success breeds complacency, and the paranoia had faded. Enter Dr. Thomas Nicely, a math professor at Lynchburg College. He was running complex division problems on the new Intel Pentium chip. He noticed something odd. The chip was making mistakes. It was a floating point error. In rare cases, when dividing certain numbers, the Pentium chip would be wrong by a tiny fraction. Intel's engineers knew about it, but they did the maths. A normal user would only encounter this error once every 27,000 years, so they ignored it. They decided not to tell the public, but they forgot about the 10x force. In the 80s, Intel sold to businesses. Engineers sold to engineers. In the 90s, thanks to Intel Inside, Intel sold to consumers. When the story broke, it wasn't an engineering problem. It was a PR nuclear explosion. IBM halted shipments of all Intel computers. The stock tanked. Grove was furious. He didn't understand. It's a math error that happens once in 27,000 years. Why does anyone care? He was failing to see the new strategic inflection point. The rules had changed. Brand reputation now mattered more than technical specs. The paranoia kicked in again. Grove realized he was being the old CEO from the 1985 story. He was denying reality. He stopped fighting. He enacted a no questions asked replacement policy. Any customer anywhere could return their chip for a new one. It cost Intel $475 million, $500 million in 1994 money. It was a massive financial hit, but it saved the brand. By embracing the disaster, Intel proved that Intel Inside stood for quality. The crisis didn't kill them. It solidified their dominance for the next 20 years. So what is the secret? When Andy Grove said only the paranoid survive, he wasn't talking about living in fear. Fear is paralyzing. Paranoia in the Grove sense is mobilizing. True strategic paranoia is the ability to separate your ego from your data. In 1985, the ego said, "We are a memory company." The data said, "Memory is dead." In 1994, the ego said, "We are infallible engineers." The data said, "The customers don't trust us." The aha moment is this: you must be willing to destroy your own creation before a competitor does it for you. Most companies die because they are protecting their past. They protect the old product. They protect the old business model. They protect the old profit margins. Grove teaches us that you have to view your own business with the cold, ruthless objectivity of an outsider. You have to be willing to fire yourself every single morning and rehire yourself to solve the problems of today, not yesterday. Before we get to the final lesson on how you can apply this to your own career, I have a small request. If you're enjoying this breakdown of business history, we are trying to survive our own 10x force, the YouTube algorithm. The only way we survive is if you hit that like button and subscribe. It tells the system that this content is valuable. Help us stay out of the valley of death. So, what can we learn from Andy Grove today? We are currently living through the greatest 10x force in history. Artificial intelligence. Just like the memory chips in 1985, entire industries are seeing their cash cows become commodities overnight. Writing, coding, design, analysis. The cost of these skills is dropping to zero, just like the price of those DRAM chips. You have a choice. You can be the Intel of 1984, holding on to the past, insisting that AI can't replace me, or you can use the revolving door test. Ask yourself, if I were fired today and someone new was brought in to take over my job, would they use these new tools? Would they change the workflow? If the answer is yes, then why aren't you doing it? Don't wait for the crisis to hit. Be paranoid. Fire yourself today so you can lead tomorrow. If you learned something new, hit the like button and subscribe for more strategy breakdowns. And let us know in the comments, what company is currently ignoring a 10x force and is about to fall? We'll see you in the next one.